Hi, my name is Mark Coleman, and this is the second portion of our project where we discuss the issues, or where we analyze the issues that General Electric faces. Um, the second portion of our project was written by Sonia Torres, Dominique Spurlock, Richard Hockley, and myself, Mark Coleman. The four key functional issues that we're going to cover is accounting, written by Sonia Torres, operations, written by Dominique Spurlock, finance, written by Richard Hockey, and marketing, written by myself, Mark Coleman. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sonia Galvan, and I'm going to talk about General Electric's accounting issues. And according to the SEC, General Electric used improper accounting methods to increase its reported earnings or revenues and avoid reporting negative financial results. It was also identified by the SEC the potential misuse of hedge accounting by General Electric as a possible risk area. However, on 4 separate occasions, General Electric accounting executives or other finance personnel approved accounting that was not in compliance with generally acceptance accounting principles. And as follow, I'm going to discuss some of General Electric's accounting violations, and we're going to start with the one that it was done in January 2003, an improper application of the accounting standards to General Electric commercial paper funding. And there's another violation, and this one was in 2003 as well. It was a failure to correct a misapplication of financial accounting standards to certain General Electric interest rate swaps. And in 2002 and 2003, reported end-of-year sales of locomotives that had not yet occurred in order to accelerate more than 370 million in ad revenue. In 2002, an improper change of General Electric's accountings for sales of commercial aircraft that increased General Electric's 2002 net earnings by about 585 millions. We can also see that this is not a unique issue of General Electric. General Electric, sadly, General Electric is not the only company that has reported false earning information. And actually, reporting of false earnings is a very common accounting fraud among industries in order to meet stockholders' expectations. General Electric reported results that met or exceeded analyst consensus forecast in every quarter from 1995 through 2004. Some of the actions taken by General Electric, in this case against this accounting frauds committed by General Electric, they agreed to pay the financial penalty imposed by the SEC of $50,000. They also implemented disciplinary actions against employees involved in the locomotive transactions, which also included firing some of the workers involved in this type of transactions. They also implemented numerous remedial actions and internal control enhancements to prevent such of errors from occurring again. And lastly, I'm going to give some recommendations to prevent this kind of frauds from happening in a company, from occurring in a business. So first of all, I think it's important to know your employees. Observing and listening to employees can help you identify potential fraud risk. Also, make employees aware of a company's fraud policy. Everyone within the organization should be aware of the fraud risk policy, including types of fraud and the consequences associated with them. It's important to implement a strong work ethics among employees. Also, another recommendation is implement internal controls. Internal controls are the plans and or programs implemented to safeguard your company. It's important to implement segregation of duties. It's an important company of internal control that can reduce the risk of fraud from occurring. Another recommendation is conduct annual financial statement examinations by a third party. In this case, management, or in many cases, management is the party committing fraud. That was the case in General Electric too. Some of the managers were involved in this type of fraudulent transactions. Management may feel pressure to meet financial goals for the company or may receive incentives if certain goals are met. To help prevent management from engaging in overly aggressive adjustments to the financial statements, have an implement party review a third party review financial statements on an annual basis. Have a third party analyze your books. And don't give so much confidence to the management. Have some strategy control on that. And lastly, leave the corporate culture. A positive work environment can prevent employees fraud and theft. There should be a clear organizational structure, written policies and procedures, and fair employment practices. Thank you very much. That was it.
Hello, my name is Richard Yaki, and this is the issue analysis for GE's financial status. Here we go. The issue is GE is financially at risk due to the circumstances it has taken on with the U.S. government and the strain that the labor unions have done. This is what I found most draining on the company as far as financial issues go. They deplete their profits, by forcing them to do things that the company not necessarily chooses for itself. And by doing this, it leaves a void because this company could do really well if it's managed like any other business to make a profit. It's an issue because it, of course, decreases profits because they're taking on risks that they wouldn't normally take on due to forces like government entities requesting them to build an infrastructure for green energy and everything, but the market's not there for it. So there's no way the company can make a profit. But they have those obligations, as I say here. The issues lie in the company's obligations. The labor union does the same thing. They hold them to a strict policy, that they have to meet all of the needs of these people instead of just being a company that provides growth for its investors and for its employees. It now is paying the employees almost better than the investors, of course. it's built by Americans, and I understand that the drive for it to be labor driven in America is a good idea, but our labor, especially up north, is getting out of control. It's not just an hourly rate now, it's pensions and benefits that never end. And like I said here, why is it an issue? Because the company has to operate profitably. Is the issue unique to the company? Most companies have tendencies to follow cheap labor. I think if the company moved further south or something, they would probably do better as far as the cost of labor, and the unions don't have such a strong hold in the southern states too. It's technically unique because they have a push for an American ideal. When we need jobs, they're providing. They're trying to help the problem here. You know, they understand that in order for them to operate as such a big company, they have to take on major projects where there's going to be stipulations. But in the end, if they offer more jobs and they roll back these labor costs, they will become more profitable. And it is kind of unique as far as a major company having these issues and the response that they take. Okay, like I said here, with the financial issues, they can invent new technology on a market front, like marketable to the public, things that the public will buy on those tendencies, not off of something somebody just thought up and said, hey, let's try this, and throw a bunch of money at it and then it not be profitable. It has to be marketable. People have to buy these things for them to sustain a market. These new industries, like even green energy, it not necessarily took off, and it didn't make a whole bunch of money at first, but the little investments, say like in research and development, if they'd use the profits from doing something marketable to fund these, it would be one thing. But when that is their main focus, is to provide infrastructure for electric cars, in the end, it's not feasible. They can help all of this main issue with finance by doing all of these things, providing more new jobs and making their stock stable by providing a constant profit. My recommendations is the company needs to innovate to fuel its growth. Like I said, what's the response of the company? I believe that is a good idea. It needs to definitely make profits for its investors. That needs to be one of the main things of any corporation, is to make a profit for its investors and not necessarily give in to political pressure. In both of these instances, they do not need to be directed by the unions or the government. In order for a company to be profitable, it does not take either one of those. And give back to the communities. They give back a lot. But I say, instead of trying to chase the bird in the bush, keep the one in your hand, and it makes sense to stick with market tendencies and not issues that are in the political climate right now. These by helping the communities and building a stronger environment for all companies to grow. And this company is huge, and they can do it in any country, anywhere, but they need to make sure that political pressures aren't moving them from a profitable company to a failure and letting all of these people down. This is a wonderful company. It's been a pleasure looking all of this information up and researching. I'm just excited to see where it will go. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Coleman. This is my portion of the issue analysis. Okay. What is the issue with General Electric? General Electric continues aggressive investment in GE Capital, the company's financial sector, and accounting for more than 50% of its revenues. The second issue GE has is its marketing strategy is to have a diverse portfolio in which they can service many types of consumers. The third issue is diversification is supposed to be independent of each other, but in the case of a conglomerate like GE, the financial sector was supporting the company, which led to many of the problems and issues that the company had. Now, the fourth issue is that the recent poor reputation has investors, employees, and potential customers losing support in the company. And the last issue is that the company it's too big to fail. Okay, why are these issues? It's an issue because GE is the world's second most valuable company and employs more than 300,000 people worldwide. Um, the American and world economy depends on companies like this to keep the world economy moving and heading in the right direction. Um, the downfall of GE would raise the unemployment rate in our country and could potentially send the financial market and economy into a crisis or possibly a recession. Okay. Is this unique to GE? Are these issues unique to GE? As far as GE being too big to fail, it is not unique to that company. There are several companies in the world that share these same similarities. Example of this is Ford, GM, Walmart, Microsoft, to name a few. All these companies, including GE, had to divest some of their businesses to avoid filing for bankruptcy. Okay, so at some point, some of these companies they divested some of their cash hog type businesses just to increase cash flow and help them stay afloat. Okay. Okay. The company's response. Well, the company responds to the bad perception they had and the issues they had marketing was to hire marketing guru Linda Boff. Now, one of her main jobs was to create a healthier perception of the company moving forward and also to restructure their marketing strategy. Okay. All right. My recommendations is for GE to continue on their current path and focus on what made the company who they are in the past and who they are today. That's really focusing on their industrial strength, their core competence. That's what GE is known for, and that's what they do well. Then they need to concentrate on long-term sustainability of the company and not focus on the short-term financial goals. And finally, they should strive for business separation so history doesn't repeat itself. I understand that GE is a conglomerate company and they have many different businesses within that company, but they have to find a way to separate those businesses to where if something like this happens again, which it probably will, it doesn't have the effect that it had, or it should not have such an impact that it had on the company in 2008. Okay. And that is my presentation on the marketing issues that General Electric faces. Thank you.
My name is Dominique Spurlock, and I will be discussing the operations issues for GE. The issue is the disposal of hazardous waste and overriding automated system. Hazardous material going into the air because employees were able to override the computer system that was releasing carbon dioxide as well as a few human carcinogens into the air. Why is it an issue? The hazardous materials that were going into the air, these toxins have the potential to make people very, very sick. It was harmful to the public as well as to the environment. From 2006 to 2007, GE employees overrode the automatic system close to 1,900 times. They were purposefully causing harm as well as violating the laws in place by the Clean Air Act. Not only were the employees overriding the system, they were also fabricating paperwork that was going to government agencies that regulate how often pollution and toxins are released into the air. This one particular issue ended up costing GE $2.25 million. This same factory had issues previously, and from about 2001 to 2006 had cost them over $1.4 million for issues of similar situations. One particular issue was toxins being leaked into the Hudson River. The company's response was to pay the fines. For a billion-dollar company like GE, a couple $1 million is really not that big of a deal. But what they did do was they also sold this particular plant that had been giving them so many problems. GE sold the plant in 2007 to Momentum Performance Materials and paid all their fines. My recommendations for situations like this was to have a system overrides in place only for emergencies. Not that many people should have access to do a system override, and 1,900 times for a system override over a little over a year is a little bit excessive, I believe. I think that that's something that should be heavily monitored. If you were not paying attention, you clearly missed 1,900 times. There's only 365 days in a year for them to just continue to purposefully release hazardous materials into the air. And they also need to have their employees better trained in understanding the legal and ethical problems that they face when they do such things. Ethically, you're harming the environment. You're not paying attention to how those toxins being released into the air are going to be affecting the people that live in those surrounding areas. But they were also not looking at the legal ramifications. You are falsifying documents that are going to state and federal agencies because of laziness, incompetence, whatever the case may be. They cost the company millions of dollars, and that should not happen. And that's all I've got for operations.
We have discussed and analyzed some of General Electric's issues related to finance, accounting, management, and operations. We can conclude by saying that if individuals or firms have committed crimes, they should pay for their actions. It will protect the economy by discouraging future acts of economically financial frauds. Every company has its challenges, but how you handle your challenges shows how strong you are as a company. And we know that General Electric will know how to make a successful recovery.